So hi students, so here I'm here to just give you some idea about cloud and cloud security, some features about it, and how the present system of cloud is all about. So we are having some, the agenda for today would be like to know what cloud computing is all about, and then we are going to see some security problems like what are all existing, and then what is about virtualization and its security, some new security issues which we are actually having and how it is, and then about data security. So these are all like on an existing platform, like not only in cloud but in general. In IT, we actually have most of the security issues. So now we are going to see like how this is actually with respect to cloud and how these things are taken care also. So first we are going to see what is cloud computing all about. So by definition, like given by NIST, so this is an organization who has given a proper definition on what cloud computing is all about. So if you see here, cloud computing is defined in such a way like one thing we need to understand what cloud is all about is it's a kind of feature wherein we are provided with some resources to be used, but we would not be sure like from where it is being available. Like for example, if I wanted to tell you, if you're trying to have any kind of resources like hardware resources being used in a kind of a software, uh, there we will not be knowing like okay from where we are actually getting this hardware resource, but still we'll be able to use it, and we'll be paying for how much we are going to use it, and then we'll return it back to them once we have done with the consumption or whatever it is. So that is how they have defined this cloud computing definition also. So as you see the first word, on-demand network access. So it is being available in an on-demand way through networking only. So the major important thing to have access to cloud computing is you require a proper network access, that is internet access. So we are going to use a kind of a shared pool of resources, because it is a kind of one organization which is actually providing it. Well, not a kind of just one organization, but it is a kind of one place where it is distributing their resources to many vendors or many customers based on their requirements. So it is kind of a shared pool of resources they give us. It consists of networks, it consists of servers, storage, applications, and services. So I believe like you might have known what these networks are there, and what the storage is, and generally in applications, and then services. We have something called as service servers, which is actually the primary component of this cloud computing, which we'll come to know in point of time. So these things are actually being provisioned rapidly based on our requirement and based on our need. That is an instant provision they would be able to give us, and there is a minimal management effort only from our side. So we will not be managing much. It will be taken care by the vendor itself, vendor in the sense whoever is giving us the cloud resources, and it is a kind of a service provided by them. So it is almost a service provider interaction we have between themselves and us. So on a high level, should know like okay how this cloud service architecture would really look across. So generally, I would always used to compare this architecture with a simple structure, which is actually our laptop itself. So if you take our laptop, this laptop would actually consist of your hard disk or your motherboards, your RAM, and everything is there. So when you're going to buy one laptop, you're just going to buy the hardware only at the first instant. So that hardware is actually comparable to the infrastructure which is present here. So we are actually getting only the infrastructure at the first time, and then once we buy the laptop, then we actually go and choose what kind of operating system needs to be installed on it. Like some people would like Windows, some people would like Linux. So based on the requirement, they will actually ask for the installation of your operating system. So that will be on the above, that is a next layer over the infrastructure. So to use this infrastructure in a proper way, this operating system is going to play an important role, and that will be a kind of a platform which we tell. So first level is going to be your hardware, which is actually infrastructure, and over that to access that hardware, we are having a platform called operating system and app server stack. And finally, over that, once the operating system is installed, you will automatically start installing your different softwares and applications to be used over that. So that will be a kind of a software application. So this is how simple how the cloud architecture, service architecture looks like. So in comparable to laptop, if you see, it'll be you will be able to easily understand things. That's why I just gave this example. So first time we saw what the architectures are. So now we need to know what are the different service models that could be provided by cloud. So service model in the sense like the cloud is actually provided as a service to us, which we are going to use it and pay for what we are going to use. So it is a kind of a service only. So there are kind of different service models they have created based on the customer's requirement. So they are divided into three things. One is infrastructure as a service, then platform as a service, and software as a service. So how do this get defined? So as you saw in the previous architecture, it is the same way that has been given to us also. So in kind of infrastructure as a layer, you will be provided with the infrastructure alone. That is the bottommost hardware kind of things over which you can choose your own operating systems and whatever application stack. So everything will be so those two layers, like the application platform layer and this application layer, will be under your control. So you will be choosing whatever you want, and this hardware alone will be provided by the vendor. When you go for a platform as a service, you will be given this hardware infrastructure as well as a platform also will be given to you. So your work is just only to design your software or whatever it is and just host it wherever you want it. So that level of kind is called as a platform as a service. And final, software as a service is in general they are going to provide you as a provide you the software also. You are just going to use that. That's all. So this is how they have defined the different layers, because there will be a different requirements for different people. Like for example, if it is going to be a big organization, they will require only the infrastructure. They wanted to have their own operating systems and their applications. But when it comes back to some colleges or something like that, they will not worry much about the operating system also. They just wanted to host their application, install their applications and use it, something like that. And finally, for SaaS, it is generally like we students, we start doing it. We directly get the softwares and start using it. So that level of, so based on different requirements, this has been divided on a broad category. We have some more kinds of models also, but these are the major categories to see here. So one concept starting here is called as multi-tenancy. Multi-tenancy is nothing about how we are going to use the shared resources in an efficient way. So that is a different kind of a planning that has been made. So for example, if there are two customers and two customers need two instances, here is kind of a virtual machines. Virtual machine is in general, you can compare it to just to a single laptop or something like that with a predefined some configurations are there. So it will be provided on a virtual level from the vendor. So that way we call it as an instance. So for example, in a basic case, like when there is a two customers, for example, here it is defined, they provided with two different two VMs here. But in case like if they are going to have a same kind of applications, then we can just get rid of having two different versions, because we will not be sure like it is going to be completely used and there will be some wastages and other stuffs. So to make it in a better, proper, efficient way of usage, this multi-tenancy concepts comes into picture. So wherein a single instance is being only used, but it is used by different tenants because it is going to be a similar application which is being used. So we need not have two VMs separately for them. And in case of a multi-tenant load balancer, like if you want to scale it on a higher level, we are actually having something called as load balancer in between. Load balancer is nothing but how we are going to distribute the traffic or the resources which is coming from the instances to your different customers. See, for example, now if you see, we have this IRCTC Tatkal ticket booking, and also if you see during our Tatkal booking, it will actually have very high load and that needs to be managed. And when it is normal, it needs to be managed on a lower level only. So that kind of things has been taken care by these kind of special applications, or if you want to say a service also, which is called as a load balancer. So here we are using that, and that feature is actually called as how scalable it can be done. Okay, so previously we have seen that abstraction models of cloud. So how we are going to deploy the cloud? So what kind of deployment model we need to choose for this kind based on the security and other features? So there are actually in a broad like two levels of cloud provision which is available. One, we call it as an on-premise or internal kind of uh, setup, and one is called as an off-premise third party. So this is nothing but, for example, if you see in your college itself, like there will be a room called a server room or data center room. Mostly they will be having like a small room kind of thing they will be maintaining. So that is a simple example of an on-premise or an internal kind of data center. So everything is controlled by you only. You are going to completely maintain everything from the hardware to your application to the software. Everything is being maintained by you. So that will be requiring your cooling equipment there, because it needs to be air conditioned, because it reads, I mean, it gives out more heat, and it needs to be managed. Maintenance cost, everything needs to be taken care by you. But in case of off-premise, that is kind of a third party. For example, we have different vendors. For Amazon is there, Microsoft is there, Google Cloud. So these are all coming under off-premise third-party people. So in these two models, first we need to choose which one we need to take in, and while taking after that we need to choose, like when we are going for an off-premise also, we have a structure called as public or an external, because we are trying to use from an external third party. So it is a kind of a shared resource only. So it is being a public resource, and when it's going to be an on-premise, it will be a private kind of a setup. So it is going to be our own choice, like if you want to take the resources as a private from a private setup, you want to build your own thing, or if you want a public, or a more good way is to choose both the things in such a way, like few can be part of private and few can be part of public, which we call as a hybrid deployment model. So this can be understood in such a way, like based on the security we can choose it, because there are more cost involved, and so many factors are at the background involved. Security is involved, so we need to decide properly, like in which way we can bring down the cost much, as well as take care of the security in a much better way. Okay, so we now discuss some of the security issues. So these security issues are kind of data loss, downtimes, phishing, password cracking, botnets, or other malwares. So these terminologies mostly you would have heard it already. So I'll just give a wrap up of that. So data loss is like there will be a problem. Like a simple example here is like from your mobile phones. So if it is going to be crashed or something happens, everything like contacts, calendars, everything goes off, unless if you not taking a proper backup, everything is gone off. So it is a complete failure. So this kind of data loss is not only in your mobile, but it also happens in everywhere, like even in a cloud setup. So even if you are going to use it in your mobile, you're going to take up a backup. Like for example, you're using your Gmail and I think those are all actually a kind of a cloud only. It is nothing but a cloud service only provided by Google, and my drives, Microsoft drives, is that provided by Microsoft. So for taking backup, so all these are on all cloud-based services only. And downtime. So even though these vendors are actually they are scaling in a good level, but still there are some glitches which actually happened in recent times also. Like for example, if you see and if you see, like these are all kind of old kind of security issues only. Like recently they are almost 90 to 99% they are able to have a stabilized environment, but at the beginning they faced so many issues, and that they have overcome also now. Like for example, Microsoft Azure, there was an outage during 2009. Rackspace was a cloud vendor, they also had some problem. Amazon S3, so they all overcome these issues, and now they're able to have a good stabilized environment to tell. Phishing. So phishing is nowadays a rapid kind of security issue available, not only from an organization level, but even on a simpler level also. Like for example, even a mobile phone is getting hacked, and many things are getting hacked because of this phishing. So phishing is nothing but some kind of unwanted emails you're getting, asking for clicking some link or something like that, and that will actually try to take control of your complete system. So this is a kind of a phishing emails which we tell. And then password cracking. So password cracking is something like they are trying to find your passwords easily. So there are so many algorithms which is actually running at the back. Kind of example I could tell as a brute force attack is there. So brute force attack is there, they will be trying to run an algorithm or a program which will try to create create passwords in a very instinctive manner, like very fast manner, and try to find out which is the right password, and they will be able to get into your system. So in that way also, maybe for running those algorithms and everything, we require a high kind of capacity, but still it is going to be a security issue only. Botnets and malware, of course, now people have started this botnets have become a major part nowadays. wherein they are trying to act like a humans and get into your system. So these examples are some examples here. If you see, like one is with the tertiary department. These are all actually some old examples only, but just to know like what this botnets and malwares are, these are being given to you now. Okay, now next we'll try to see something about the virtualization security. So in virtualization security, we'll have some glitch about isolation, or what is isolation, what is kind of snapshot, and then restore complexity, scaling and transients, and about data lifetime. So what is isolation all about? So isolation is something like how we are going to isolate our and I mean the topmost layer, that is kind of your virtualization missions being isolated and used. So at the bottom, your hardware layer is just a single layer over which you have this host operating system and something called as hypervisor, which actually helps to distribute and provide what to say, your capacity for different VMs. So it's something like you're trying to have more than running two apps on the same server. So wherein you will have the same server, but we are going to run two apps, and then we are going to have two different physical servers itself running different things. So this is how isolation is maintained from kind of VMs. So snapshot is nothing but a simple term for you to tell is a backup. So how we are trying to take backup and maintaining it, and how we are trying to revert these backups when there is any problem. So even on a simple perspective, you see sometimes in our laptop itself, if you see, we can actually schedule this restore mechanism wherein we can set up this snapshots. I mean, it is not a snapshot, it is actually a kind of a backup only. In your laptop, you can set over a time period, and when there is a laptop crash or something, when you try to reinstall it, ask whether you want to restore from some old image or something. Image is a kind of operating system image. So over that point of time, before that, whatever data and everything exists, it will be there. So that will help us to get back to the systems from till that time alone. So that will be helpful. Okay, something like called as state restore. So this is actually a very careful thing which we need to uh, take care, because for example, this state restore also we need to make sure like it is not going to restore to an affected version again. See, for example, here if you see, we are there is a virus being obtained in your system, and then you have done some save files, delete files, and then only you have detected the virus. So while trying to remove the virus, what we are trying to do is we are trying to restore back to the state. But the restoration should actually be before obtaining this virus. So we need to know when the virus has come in. Without knowing that, if we try to restore sometime before that, then again the virus will be present anywhere in the lower, in some kind of a low level, and it could again try to make this vulnerable VMs vulnerable via virtual machines. So in respect to complexity, so it is a bit not that much bit complex. Maybe at the beginning it will be kind of a complex architecture, but our thing is like we need not worry much about how it is being maintained at the backend, because we are trying to use the resources which has been provided to us alone. But still, it is good to know on a knowledge perspective like how they are maintaining at the background. So when there is a guest OS, it has been distributed and provided to us, wherein we set up this host OS. This has been divided and provided by the help of this hypervisor in place. Okay, hypervisor security. So as you see in the before slide, this hypervisor is actually the major part which divides and gives this based on our requirement, like our host OS which we need to install, how much memory and everything. So this should be highly secure also, this hypervisor. So that security is also very important, and how it needs to be maintained also. Inter VM attack. So this is also a possible attack which can actually happen. Like for example, when we are trying to have one VM and there is an effect that has been affected, and it is actually on the same layer over the other VMs also, and they are being interconnected with each other. Like for example, there is one VM which is affected, and we are trying to bring one more VM from the image of that one, without knowing that it has been affected, or there is a shared folder, shared access between the different VMs, so it can be easily transmitted. So these are all kind of inter VM attacks which can also happen. Scaling, yes, this is a very good advantage of cloud, as well as a very careful thing which we need to take care when we are doing the scaling opportunity. So what is thing is like we need to do is like during scaling, your physical machines are actually increased. So when the physical machines are actually increased, we need to know like how much it needs to be used, how much it needs to be extended. So everything needs to be properly analyzed and then go for a better scaling option. Something called as transients. So transients is something like, see, for example, whenever we have set up like kind of a virtual machine setup, and we are trying to apply our applications and everything. So usually we'll have something called as a production in the sense like which is going a proper live being used by customers. And at the back end, this application can be upgraded. We actually try to bring new features, and we have something called as testing kind of environment we'll have for the same application where we try to test everything. So those testings and demos, those kinds of things will be usually called as specialized VMs, wherein it will not be always running. So when we are trying to use it, only we'll bring it up and use it. Other times we'll stop it and keep it. So we should be very careful. Like the infected missions, like if there is any infected missions, they do not come in contact with these specialized VMs. Because that can again affect our production missions also. So it should be properly detected, and it should be patched in the sense like how you do your Windows update in your systems. So that is also happening in cloud environment also. It should be done properly. So this we have already seen like the data lifetime. So we need to properly identify how much is the lifetime required for the data, and whether it has been recovered from a place where it has not been affected, like the time before the virus has been affected or something like that. Okay, so all these were something kind of old security issues which were already existing, but on a rapid growth, like in recent, like last 5 to 10 years, we have actually brought in good development. But see, every time the technology has some disadvantages. So there are some problems which will be. These are actually a few list of problems we have seen here. So one thing is called as accountability. So as cloud grows, the accountability is going to be on a shared method. So who is going to be accountable for what part of the what to say your architecture? So for example, in case of infrastructure platform, if you see, the vendor, your cloud provider, will be able to take care of your network storage and everything, your hardware, and you will be taking care of your operating systems and your applications. So this layer will be taken care by you. So when coming to your platform as a service, your web application will also be taken care by them. Only your application needs to be taken care by you, and kind of software, everything will be taken care by cloud provider. Okay, so no security parameters. So we are actually having very little control over the physical missions and the network location of the instance. So this can be a kind of a drawback in one case, and other kind is like we should actually try to have a good belief, like okay, they will be able to take care properly, and that is a mutual benefit actually happening with resources now and being used across. So next is larger attacks. So this we actually saw already, kind of inter VM attack. So this can happen between the cloud provider and your network. So in between this can happen. New side channels. So new side channels is something like, okay, so there will be a place wherein the VMs are being shared and used, but we are not sure like how they are shared, to whom the VMs are getting shared and other things. So this might cause some breach or some problems wherein data could be visible from one place to another. So these kind of small issues might be there, but still that could be overcome in if you are trying to properly use the resources in a properly designed way. So that is also a very important part here. Auditability. So as the resources which we are going to use, we will be able to audit it, but from there or I mean from the cloud vendor side or the cloud provider side, they will also have been an auditing team, and they have some different security provisions which they will be providing. Like for example, if I want to tell, we have this ISO certification. There are many other based on different countries. We have this HIPAA. Then if you see some few apps and all, like payment gateways and all, you will see PCI DSS. They'll be having one, say, bottom there will be a security thing. So these are all kind of an auditing which is happening over their application, so that it gives a confirmation like it is proper. So these are the things which I actually told you, the certifications, PCI and ISO certification. There are many based on different regions and different customers, because see, for example, India has some certain regulations, Europe will have some certain regulations, US will be having certain regulations. So everything must be taken care where it is used in their own regions in a proper way. Okay, so data security we need to know. So when the data is actually being flowing, when the data is actually sitting in one of the storage machine, how it is being taken care, how the security is being taken care, we need to know. So data security based on the storage and then how it is processed and how it is being transmitted is being compared with the availability, integrity, and the confidentiality. So this table is to just understand how the data is being taken care on a physical level and on a logical level. So if it is going to be on a data security for a storage level and it is highly available, they are able to maintain a redundant kind of thing. So on availability things, it is highly redundant. Over an integrity stage, if you go, when it is going to be stored, we have this MAC kind of security in features enabled when it is being stored. And when it is on a processing stage, we have something called as homomorphic encryption, which could be applied over your data. And when it is being transmitted over, like from one place to another, so we enable kind of something called as social security layer, something SSL we call it as. So this will, it is a kind of a self-signed certificate which will be provided, so that it is telling like the transmission layer is actually highly secure. And then with respect to confidentiality, if we see for storage, we have the symmetric encryption, and again for processing homomorphic, and for transmission is SSL. So only for respect to data at rest, we have different ways wherein it to maintain integrity, we can use MAC kind of what to say, a kind of algorithm, and with respect to confidentially, we can maintain the symmetric encryption. Okay, so this is one small example like how security is good enabled like more than this username and password feature. So we call something called as public key cryptography. Like it is a cryptographic technique wherein when the data is transmitted from one person to another, it could be detected proper, like whether the data is being sent from the correct person, and then we can actually decrypt and use it. So that will be done via the public and private key. So usually when there is a key, when there is a data being created, it is being encrypted with the help of public key over that. So for example, if you see here, there is an encryption mechanism wherein Bob is there and Alice is there. So Alice will be holding is the private key. So this private key will help to detect like whatever data has been sent by Bob, whether it is right or not. So there will be a combination like this private key will actually accept only this public key only when this comes over this public key. So that will be generated by a single kind of a program. So but it will not be with the same, so one public key will be with the sender and the receiver will be having the private key. So what the sender will do is he will actually encrypt his public key over the data and send it. And once it is being received by Allies, what he'll do is he'll put his private key, the private key, and this public and private will work according to each other and they will validate it. And once it is validated only, the data is decrypted and then provided to Alice. So this will be helpful, and it is actually a good security feature nowadays being used also. A kind of homomorphic public encryption. So this is a simple kind of an algorithm also we can tell it up. So algorithm in the sense like, okay, so how the public key crypto, I mean like how it can be used. It is a simple kind of algorithm wherein it involves various Boolean circuit and various other features also. So I do not want to go much depth into it. So if you are interested, we can actually take this and you can actually try to read it also. So these are different ways of encryption provided over when the data is at rest, when the data is actually transmitting, so that it is very helpful such that it is not being compromised in between. Because nowadays, if you see, the data compromisation is very high. So as you all know, like we are actually having studying, everyone are studying in from, we are working from home and everything is there. So data is completely being transmitted over normal internet only. And it is important that data has been highly secure and it has been need to be transmitted, because it is all very secure data. It should be data needs to be secured, and if there is a small leakage of data also, then there are so many things that can be happening. So one small example is like there are many problems which recently arose also, like data were being compromised by different organization and the hacker actually asked for compensation for getting the data back. Like in, you will see like these Twitter datas and all, like they will be hacking Twitter datas and they will show like, so these are all kind of something wherein we need to be highly cautious about how we are trying to use the resources from an external perspective. And as well as we should also be cautious like what are all the personal information we are actually trying to provide outside also. So if simple one more example I would tell you is like your mobile phones application. So you are installed so many applications in your mobile phones, and it actually asks for permissions when you're trying to install and trying to use different things. So we should be highly cautious, like what are the permissions we are trying to provide for that application, so that it should not transmit your personal data through that one. So for example, there will be some applications which will ask for microphone access, your camera access. So these are all kind of features which can try to what to say, enter into your system, because you're going to provide your storage access wherein your storage can be accessed by them, so wherein the data could be taken and shared. So there are so many things can happen, as well as they are proving that it could be secured also. So it is like both the things needs to be accepted, and it is from in our hands, like how better we are using it and how secure we are trying to make it in a proper way. So a kind of a small example, a real-time example on how we are going to have this security in place. So here we are seeing Elysis workers, they need to assemble the raw materials into the jewelry. So we need to be highly cautious that these jewelries are not being taken anything or misused or something like that. So how it is being done? So this raw materials are being converted to jewelry. So still after converting into this jewelry, we are worried about how it, if it gets stolen or something like that. So how can the workers process without having access to them? So we need to be highly cautious about that. So we have something kind of a system wherein this kind of a locker system, wherein once it is done, it is being stored in a proper way, for which the key is only being available with the owner only. So this is a real-time example. See, even in your case also, you have these jewelries or money safely secured by you. So even if you go for a bank, if you see in a bank is having a locker mechanism. So even a locker mechanism is a similar kind of a private public combination only it is using. So usually when you go for banks, and if you ask, I mean, like if you have used it, maybe you might know. If you're not used it, like lockers also work based on opening, which will have keys, one from the bank side and one from your side. So it is almost like the bank is going to have a kind of a public key, and you will be holding your private key. So once the bank first opens your locker, then there will be one more key which you need to place and open it, then only you can take your things. So it is a kind of a secured way from the bank side also, and from your side also, mentioning like it is a highly secured way. So this is one small example. Okay, so almost so these are the things which I wanted to actually give some intent about. So there are various vendors also, like we have Amazon, who's now actually the topping the cloud providing thing. Then we have Microsoft Azure, then we have Google Cloud. There are many other vendors also, like IBM is there. Small vendors are also there who are providing these cloud systems. So it is good, like you try to explore these services, cloud services. We have free trials over these services. Like for Amazon is going to provide like a 12-month free trial, they are going to provide it. So you can create one account in AWS. If you try give information like AWS management console, you will be able to create a free tier account and then start using it. So before start using it, make sure like you understand what are all the free tier guidelines, because they provide a kind of a limited resource. We should not exceed those resources, because if you're trying to exceed the resources, you should I mean, like you should be paying for that one itself. Because even though we are using free tier, we'll be having our debit card or our credit card being saved in their system for a cautious purpose, because if there is an exceed of usage of resources, they will be charging accordingly. And previously and all, they used to charge like, okay, so per month if you're going to take a hardware, you will be paying for per month charges. And then they came down for a daily charges, like, okay, per day how much you're using. Then they came down to a month, I mean, like hourly charges. And then they are nowadays, they are even trying to push using the, I mean, calculate cost based on how much seconds you're using the resources. So it is being that efficient, wherein they are also very taking customers priority on a much what to say, on a much important way. And as well as how they can efficiently use the resources for other vendors also. See, for example, if you're going to use it, if you are going to pay for a second basis or a minute basis, then in that case, how the cloud structures will be used is like, for example, when you're trying to get a VM, like for example, a 4 GB RAM and then 2 GB memory, you're asking something like that, for a storage of 500 GB. So you're using it just for 5 or 10 minutes. You have just wanted to launch or just see how it is working, and then you go and delete it. So for the 10 minutes only, you're just going to pay for those resources. So it is that efficient, we can use it. So I highly recommend everyone to start exploring those features. What are all the different services provided by them? When you start getting into it, you will get to know the list of services which is been available. You can try to get one into one, the different storage. If you're good at database level, you can go for storage services and try to explore those things. If you're good at network, you can go for networking side. If you're good at big data, if you're good at AI, there are different services for different technologies and different things which we can actually become an expert, or you can also know everything, so that you can become a good level of a designer, like a good architect, like how everything needs to be properly and used, so that it doesn't so when you're going for for a customer, when you're working in an organization, so you approach a customer, so they will ask the complete structure. Okay, so how you are going to provide network, how you are going to provide for me storage, so how you are going to maintain the secure layer, how the data has been taken, what is the level of backup has been taken. So there are so many questions which will come into the mind. So all these understanding comes only when we start working on it. Until and unless, without working just on a theoretical concept, you will just understand things, but only while you start working on it, you will be getting a clear idea about things. So I think I am almost done with my things. So please put on your questions, so I'm good to answer it now.
Abiding by the law, every good happening has come to an end. This episode is drawing its own curtain. First of all, I thank you. I thank our chief guest, sir, for wonderful experience, for sharing this wonderful experience with us. Next, I thank our respective secretary, sir, for this constant support. Next, I thank sir. Then I thank all our teachers and staff of AGK for this wonderful webinar. Last but not least, I thank all my friends and colleagues. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.